In this video, we're going to discuss manual machines. Until recently, I wasn't able to talk much about the manual machines because all I had were electronics. Fortunately for me, my mom decided to give me her Necky. This machine is special for many reasons. The first is that the machine is my mom's. Also, my grandmother gave my mom this machine the week I was born to sew clothes for me. This is the same make and model that my grandmother owned, and that woman could sew. In my grandmother's day, you didn't run down to the store and buy clothing. You made whatever you needed. Handmade clothing is so much more durable, personal, and meaningful than anything you can buy today. If you know me, you know that generally my ideas are unique and way out of the box. I'd like to share one with you. If you know someone expecting a child and the mom and or dad are creative people, perhaps you can get together with others and combine your funds to purchase a sewing machine as a shower gift. It doesn't have to be some fancy electronic machine. You can buy an awesome manual like this one. Instead of disposable clothing mass-produced in China, you can give them the means to make beautiful things tailored just for their new baby, like clothes, bedding, and accessories. Also, they can use the machine to make things for themselves and their home. Maybe, just like me, the machine can be handed down to the child when they're ready to create for themselves. I hardly think you could find a gift with more meaning or potential. This machine was made in Italy, and some claim it's one of the finest machines ever made. I have no idea how much it costs new, but you can find them on eBay for a few $100s. There are lots of other brands of older machines that can sew really well that you can get inexpensively. eBay can be a little scary if you don't know much about machines, but your local sewing machine dealer should have a good assortment of older manual machines too. They usually refurbish them and will even give you a bit of a warranty. I would suggest that you visit your dealer and have a look. Write down the make and model of any machines you're interested in, return home, and use Google to research what you've chosen. It won't take long to find others that have that machine and what they think of it. Also, find out the availability of a snap-on foot adapter so you can buy feet for it that you may want in the future. After I got this machine home, I had to replace the power cords, clean it up, and oil it. I found everything I needed online to do this. Once I started playing with it and understanding its capabilities, I decided this was my new primary machine. I feel kind of stupid for not knowing how capable such a machine could be. Newer does not equate to better in the world of sewing machines. Trust me on this. My electronic faff machines are now in the closet. I don't really care what they cost. They simply are not as solid and dependable as this Necky. Personally, I will probably never buy another electronic sewing machine. Now let's take a look at how this machine works. Let's take a few moments and look at the components of a manual machine. And I think one of the biggest things is people think that the older manual machines are really different from the new machines, and the reality is that they're just not. They have a lot of the same components on them. They'll just be dials instead of electronic displays. So this is my machine, the Necky, and I'll show you the different parts of it, and you'll see that they're extremely similar to the machine that I showed you before that was electronic. So the thread is back here on a little spool, and it comes up, it threads down. This is the tension knob. It comes up, goes down, and goes into the needle. This is an interesting needle on this machine. It actually threads from left to right as opposed to front and back. But it's down here. Here's the foot, just like on a regular machine or an electronic machine. Here's the different plates for the feed dogs. There's a mechanism where you just lift this up and spin it around for the different openings depending on the foot that you're using. This is a special feature, and it coincides with this up here, so I will show you what that is in a moment. This is the needle position. If you can see the needle down here, and I can move it to the left, to the center and to the right. Very common. And then here we have the stitch width. Mine is a little slider, and I can set little stops to set the width. These are knobs to set the stops. A lot of the older machines might just have a dial. And this is the stitch width, and this is the reverse button. And here is a mechanism for winding the bobbin. You would thread down here, the bobbin goes in here, and it's got a bobbin winder built in. And here's the hand wheel that you're used to. So you can see that the machine is really not any different. It has a lot of the same components. So now let's take a few moments and look at what all these do and how they function. As I said before, this is my tension knob, and I've got that set where I want it right now. And here's my stitch length, which I have set on 2 at the moment, with the needle in the center position. So it's just a standard straight stitch at this point. I can move the needle to the left if I like, or to the far right to get the different positions down here. And this would be for zigzag stitching. So I'm going to set my needle in the center, and then I'm going to set the zigzag here. I have little knobs for stops, these little parts right here. So if I set it there, now I run the machine. You'll see there's a zigzag stitch. And so I can set different widths for the zigzag by moving these little stops. So if I set it way over here, you can see that now it's gotten wider. And then if I wanted to do a satin stitch, I just make the stitches much closer together. I'll go closer than that. And there's the zigzag. Now, one of the things that you might notice as I run this machine is how quiet it is. It's extremely quiet because these machines were made very well, and that's one of the things I noticed right away, is that it just sounds better than the newer machines. The new ones sound really plastic and clunky, and these run really, really nice. They're very good to work with. So there's your basic zigzag and straight stitch, but the neat thing about these machines is that they're capable of decorative stitches, and let me show you how that works. This is the mechanism on this machine that creates decorative stitches, and basically what you do is you have a cam. This is one of the cams, and it slides onto this spindle in the center, and there are 3 arms here, and if I separate them you can kind of see that there's 3. So these arms ride on the cam as it turns, and each arm dictates a different thing. So the one down at the bottom that rides on this lowest cam here controls the movement of the fabric. The second disc, which would be this middle arm here, controls the swing of the needle, and the top one controls the position of the needle. So as they go around, these little arms ride on the cams and make the stitch down at the foot. So let's put one of these in and see what it does. So here are the cams, the pre-assembled cams that came with the machine. You can see there are 12 of them here in the box, and there is another one here for darning. And the way that this works is that the lid of the box has the stitches that these cams make on the outside, and it has a little dial here, and if you turn the dial to the stitch that you want here, so let's make the little bows. So it's aligned here, and now this tells you which disc number to use, what to set this dial to, where the needle position is. Here it's left, to put the stitch width at 0 and the stitch length at 1.5. So now we just need to do this over on the machine. So first we open this up to put the dial, or to put the disc in, and then put the fingers back against it, and the instructions said to set this dial at 1, put the needle in the far left position, the width at 0, and this at 1.5. So now that everything's set up, let's take a look at what it does. And there we have perfect little bows. So it's kind of a misconception that the newer machines are the only things that were capable of doing decorative stitches, because this machine obviously is more than capable, and things get really interesting when it comes to putting these discs together. So I showed you the little box with the little dial for getting the settings for using the little cams that came with it, but it gets a lot more interesting than that. If you flip it over, you'll see that there are a whole bunch more stitches here with settings. And what this is, in addition to telling you what you want the dial set at, you'll see that there's 3 numbers here at the top that designate the discs. And the reason for this is they give you discs. So now you can build your own stitches at the 3 different levels, and they give you numerous ones to try out. But you can also sit here all day long and stack those discs any way you want and see what you get out of it. So this machine is more capable of doing decorative stitches, or more stitches actually, than the most expensive electronic machine that I own. And it does a beautiful job, like on our little bow example. Even though this was their standard setting that they had, you can make the bows shorter or fatter or anything by playing with the dials. So you have an infinite number of possibilities, and this is a manual machine. So Necky is not the only one that utilizes cams. There were other brands that did the same thing. So don't think that you have any type of limitation when you purchase a manual machine, because it just isn't the case. Now, in addition to the cams and all the decorative stitches, this also came with a bias foot, there's a quilting arm here, one for darning. These are all different types of feet in here for rolled hems. This nasty contraption, which is an automatic ruffler. These are the types of things that came with the machines, these older ones. And here's, you know, a zipper foot. That looks very familiar, I'm sure. So if you're lucky enough to get an older one that still has all of its parts, I think you'll be shocked at what just came standard. Also, another option that you have is to purchase something like this. And what this is an adapter so that I can put this on the machine and then I can use snap-on feet like this one. So this isn't a necky foot, it didn't come with the machine, but because of this adapter, I can buy pretty much any kind of snap-on foot that's available in the marketplace to use on this machine. And that is generally the case. You can find a high shank or low shank adapter depending on what kind of machine you have. And then you can buy everyday feet that everybody else can buy with the newer machines. Probably one of the most intimidating things about a manual machine is the fact that you're going to have to oil it. And so I'm going to oil this one just so you can see that this really isn't that big of a deal. I like to use this product here. It's called Zoom oil, and it's very high quality oil. So according to the manual that came with my machine, it says to ensure easy and trouble-free running, the machine requires oiling. If used continuously, it should be oiled every 2 days. For intermittent use, once or twice a week, oil it about once a month. So you can see if you don't do a lot of sewing, the oiling process is really not that big of a deal. But let's go through this real quickly and you can see what it takes to oil this one, and that'll give you some idea of what you would be looking at with the manual machine. The oiling points on this machine on the top, there's a small hole here, and this has a hole in the top, and then the cams also need a touch of oil. So this hole is incredibly important in this machine, and this one is supposed to get about 12 drops of oil. This oil has this really nice neck on it, so we can just put it up here and then just drip 12 drops about. And then everything else is 1 or 2 drops. So I'm going to put 2 in here. And I'm going to skip this mechanism for the moment because you can't really see. So the next part is in here, and there are 8 points in here that would require oil. I'm just going to kind of show you that if you don't happen to have a manual that shows you the points, you're looking for anything that's a rotation like here, or where there's a rod where it will go up and down. And whenever you're not sure, just run the machine, just turn the hand wheel and watch what's moving. And that's a great indicator. So you know that these points that are going up and down on this rod will need a drop of oil. This one is spinning, so that would need one. Up here would need one. So if you don't happen to have a book, it's not that tough to figure it out. And if you get a little bit too much, you know, just grab a paper towel and just dab. You don't want oil dripping down on your fabric or anything, but if you just drop 1 or 2, you're not going to have a problem with that. So now let's take a look at the underside. So here's the underside of the machine, and there are about 18 points here that require oiling. And again, you would just use this spout and put it up and drip 1 or 2 drops on all the points. And it's perfectly okay to turn the hand wheel in this position and just watch what's moving underneath. And again, if it moves, oil it. That's the simplest way to look at this. And here's the bobbin mechanism, and this actually will come apart so that you can clean it. This is not uncommon. But you can't hurt anything. I mean, don't get crazy with it. But the worst that's going to happen is it'll drip some excess oil down here in the bottom, and you might want to put a cloth or something underneath your machine just in case you have some excess. But there's no electrical is over here, so there's no electrical components that are going to get oiled. You're not going to get smoke or anything. And honestly, you are much better off by being a little aggressive with the oil as opposed to not doing it. A machine will seize if it's not oiled properly. So make sure to oil the machine regularly, and don't be afraid of it. There's nothing scary down here. I mean, you might want to unplug your machine. Make sure you don't step on the power when you're doing this. But it's not that bad. It may seem somewhat intimidating if you're not mechanical, but there's not complicated. So don't be afraid of it. It's actually really cool to watch how all the stuff works and get a feel for how the machine functions. And you'll know if it's not running properly. You'll have some better understanding of what the machine does. And again, like here, I put a little too much. I can just clean it up. It doesn't hurt anything, and it's ready to go. That's a quick overview of my manual Necky sewing machine. I didn't go into too much detail about this machine because yours will have different features. However, this does give you a great idea of the potential of these types of machines. If you're new to sewing or have been at it for years and are in the market for a sewing machine, don't forget about these older machines as an option. They're much less expensive, more durable, and dependable than many newer electronics, costing hundreds if not thousands of dollars. I truly appreciate your taking the time to learn and grow with me. Never forget that you're capable of doing absolutely anything you want to do. Just keep a positive attitude and always remember that you deserve all the best that life has to offer. Please subscribe to my channel for other fun adventures and discoveries.